It wasn't just June 84. On 4th July 1955, when Sikhs were protesting, the government raided Sri Harmandir Sahib. Thousands were arrested. During the partition in 1947, many Sikhs lost their homeland. And before this partition, the Sikhs were promised that they would be given a separate land where they could also taste freedom. But after the British left, with Nehru government in power, around 20 lakh people were killed, properties were lost and seized, promises made were abandoned, and the struggle for Punjabi Suba, a Punjabi state, began. On 10th October 1947, the newly formed Indian government declared Sikhs criminals. The governor of Punjab, Chandu Lal Trivedi, issued a circular to all district magistrates which read, "Sikhs as a community are a lawless people and are a menace to the law-abiding Hindus in the province. Deputy Commissioner should take special measures against them." The surprising part here is that they thought Sikhs were a distinct community, unlike Article 25 2b of the Indian Constitution of 1949. Sikhs were being discriminated against across the states. Around 96% of the officers in the Sikh majority areas were non-Sikhs. Sikhs suffered unfair treatment and were not given even those rights that the so-called untouchable Hindus were given. This is a common pattern. Whenever a state wants to establish its dominance or control, they always look for a division factor. Prior to the British, Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs lived in harmony. Our ninth Guru attained martyrdom to protect Kashmiri Pandits. Further, Maharaja Ranjit Singh's army and government included Sikhs as well as Hindus and Muslims, and there wasn't a single religious riot. After the Great Mutiny, in which the Hindus and Muslims fought against the British followed the divide and conquer policy, just like what they tried to do in the Hawaii plantations, where the division factor was ethnicity. Pitch a Japanese against a Chinese to get cheap labor, which didn't work out because ethnicity is not that great a factor as religion. The same happened during the partition, Hindustan for Hindus and Pakistan for Muslims. It's important that a community has a representation. That's why we have the concept of Khalsa, the concept of Miri Piri. The Quran too recognizes the authority of those who have been chosen as leaders. But representation doesn't mean you downgrade or discriminate against others. When Sher-e-Punjab Maharaja Ranjit Singh established an empire, it was inclusive of all religions, with no discrimination and no divides. However, the Indian government denied Sikh representation of scheduled castes concessions given to Hindu scheduled castes. The Sikhs protested as Akali Dal brought this conspiracy to notice. The government was hoping that because Sikhs and Muslims wouldn't qualify for scheduled caste reservations, they will have the only option to convert. Master Tara Singh Ji declared a march towards Delhi to protest this unfair law. The government knew the extent to which this matter could get worse, so it finally agreed to provide equal opportunities for scheduled caste Sikhs. Then the government decided to redraw states on linguistic basis, and the only languages not considered for statehood were Punjabi, Urdu, and Sindhi. It wasn't just the Nehru government but also RSS and its wings that were destroying the harmony between communities with their sectarianism and politics. Now if we look at the languages that were not given any statehood, Punjabi, mostly spoken by Sikhs, Urdu, mostly spoken by Muslims, and Sindhi, spoken by the people of Sindh state in Pakistan. This observation points towards religious discrimination in practice. So Akali Dal passed a resolution in October 1948 in favor of continuing distinct representation of Sikh minority through a Punjabi Suba, a Punjabi state. However, Congress in its annual session held in December 1948 adopted a decision that read, "We are clearly of the opinion that no question of rectification of the boundaries in northern India should be raised at the present moment, whatever the merits of such a proposal." The Sikhs continued to protest, so the government under Bhim Singh Sachar introduced the Sachar formula on 2nd October 1949 to suppress this movement. It proposed making Punjabi as the medium of instruction up to the matriculation stage in the Punjabi zone area, and Hindi taught as the compulsory subject. The Punjabi zone under this formula consisted of Gurdaspur, Amritsar, Hoshiarpur, Jalandhar, Firozpur and Ludhiana districts along with Hisar district. Tara Singh refused to accept it. He reminded the government that to implement such a formula, Punjabi zone had already been identified and demarcated. How obvious that the government couldn't see a Punjabi zone for a state but could demarcate one for the such a formula. Hindi and Punjabi were made official media of educational instruction in 1948, but the Municipal Committee of Jalandhar in February 1949 resolved to make Hindi the sole media. The Senate of Punjab University also refused to use Punjabi, and these both were the strongholds of Arya Samaj, which was supported by Jan Sangh and its Hindu Mahasabha allies. It was Arya Samaj that introduced proselytization, an act of religious conversion which was perceived negatively by many as opposed to evangelism. Many authors believe that Arya Samaj has been responsible for increasing antagonism between Muslims and Hindus. Arya Samaj campaigned to encourage the Hindus of the Punjabi-speaking areas to disown Punjabi. They raised slogans of Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan. Akali Dal submitted an 18-page memorandum on 14th May 1954 based on language. The States Reorganization Commission turned it down and said in its report that the movement lacked support amongst the Hindus of the proposed Punjabi-speaking state. So it wasn't about language, it was about sentiments. It was clearly religious discrimination. On 6 April 1955, the Punjab Congress banned the shouting of Punjabi Suba slogans. However, the slogans Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan, coined by Savarkar, was never banned. It's quite evident that it doesn't quite subscribe to any of the key tenets of the Constitution: socialism, secularism, federalism, and democracy. RSS version of nationalism only comes into play when there is a religious angle to any issue. Even today, language is a problem for the government. Mughal Sarai has been renamed as Deen Dayal Upadhyay Junction, Allahabad as Prayagraj, Faizabad as Ayodhya. BJP believes that these names signify slavery. I wonder when the BJP will change the name of Hindi itself, which comes from the Persian word Hindu cognate with the Sanskrit Sindhu. After all, Persian was brought to India by Mughals. Anyways, that's a whole other story. Coming back to the ban on Punjabi Suba slogans. So 20 days after the ban was imposed, Akali Dal issued an ultimatum to rescind the ban by 23rd April or face agitation on 10th May. When the agitation commenced, many protesters congregated at Sri Darbar Sahib. This agitation began on 10th May, as Tara Singh Ji declared, following which he and his 10 companions were arrested for raising the Punjabi Suba slogans. In 2 months, around 12,000 Sikhs had been arrested, and by the end of July, around 21,000 Akalis were jailed. On July 4, 1955, government police forces raided Sri Harmandir Sahib and arrested the protesters along with the head granthis and cooks of the langar. The police used batons and tear gas and even fired shells on the protesters. Over 200 protesters were killed and thousands were wounded and arrested. 10 years old, Inderjeet Singh was beaten with batons, killed, and thrown in an irrigation well on 21 September 1955 by policemen for raising Punjabi Suba slogans. Following this movement, Sachar lifted the ban on slogans and apologized personally at the Akal Takht on 10 October 1955. Sachar had also allegedly blamed Master Tara Singh for trying to create a Sikh state rather than a Punjabi state. Despite all this, Sikhs in Punjab have made massive contributions to the war efforts against China in 1962 and later the Indo-Pak War of 1965. After Nehru's death, the Indian government, considering the demonstrations of patriotism by the Sikh community, decided to review the Punjabi Suba movement. On 23 September, Union Home Minister Gulzari Lal Nanda declared the formation of a committee of the cabinet that will look into the Punjabi Suba matter. On 10th January 1966, Lakshman Singh Gill, the General Secretary of SGPC, along with the executive member Ravel Singh, met the committee and presented the case for Punjabi-speaking state. About 2,200 supported the Punjabi Suba and 903 opposed it in the memoranda submitted to the committee. Finally, after so much struggle and so many protests, the Punjab Reorganization Act 1966 was passed on 18 September in the Lok Sabha, and Punjab became a reality on 1st November 1966.